there's a concept called the wounded healer.
Yes.
And the most powerful shamans, magician, and healers are the broken ones.
Yeah.
As children in these tribes either had a near-death experience or a disease or some trauma opens the channels of communication, and they become the shaman of the tribe. And they heal not in spite of the wounds, but because of the wounds. They're in so much pain, they understand the pain of others,
Yes.
and they address them, but it eventually destroys them. And there's traditions in circumpolar shaman tribes. Shamans in North and South, they end up like Elvis. They end up as fat drug addicts, sick people, just there. And the tribe's like, well, that's your job. You're the one who has to heal us and entertain us and advise us. And the shaman's like, I know, that's my job.
Burden.
And they die. And Elvis was carrying that burden. He was a wounded healer, a shaman. And I have other theories. I try to approach it from Jungian, alchemical, different theories. We'll never know. It's a mystery. Happy heresy then. Welcome to the desert of the real. Indeed, heresy shouldn't be this much fun, but it is. It just is. But sometimes, as we will find out today, it is bittersweet. It hits you to the core, but part of Gnosis is going to the underworld. It has been being destroyed by the spirits, dismembered like Osiris, taken down into the lair of the dragon, where we must face the dragon if we are to have any chance of any lasting or true treasure. My name is Miguel Connor, and as always, I am indeed your Pompatus of Gnosis, your madman across the waters of creation. And good to see everybody today. I think our guests will appreciate that it is Thor Day. It is Thursday, so there are no coincidences, as the universe often tells us. And the universe always has a plan for us. And yes, we've got very excited to be joined by Mr. Trevor W. Trevor, thank you very much for coming to the Virtual Alexandria.
Thanks for having me, Miguel.
Pleasure is all ours. And with us too, we got the Moondog Vance. Vance, how are you doing on this Thor Day? Or Jupiter Day?
I'm Jupiter Day. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I woke up this morning and I had a dream about a dark time in history in my past where I was working for this company. It was awful. And so you could ask, why didn't God intervene? Well, it was my own misunderstanding of what was going on. I was doing one thing and they were up to something else. So God would have to inject his wisdom into my mind. But if he did that all the time, then I'd be God, right? So
for sure, yeah. That's, I think, one of the themes today is we don't see the whole picture. Even in our past, there's a whole panorama of forces playing, and we don't see the entirety of the individual or those behind the scenes. And once we see it, it's much better. At least we find some acceptance and understand we were just on a journey of purpose. Who's that? Yeah, speaking of purpose, there's a little pooch.
There's a purposeful guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's mine.
Anyway, good to see everybody in the chat. Hey, Christina Marie. Raining. Well, it's not raining. I think you're in Chi-Town. Not raining on my side, 30 miles north of Chicago, near a town called Wakanda. But yeah, the weather's been crazy this summer. Good to see Astrox. Hey, Graham, a great talk on pataphysics yesterday with the Finding Hermes group. And yeah, good to see the crowd tonight. Always smart people. And yes, as always, if you have any questions, please super chat them. It should be a big crowd tonight because it is Thor Day, so we can get to your questions or remarks or whatever you have on your mind. Always good to hear from you. Not much else with the housekeeping. Well, there is a little bit of housekeeping. And again, since we are talking about loss and how to find ourselves, I don't know if many of you know this, but Ronnie Pontiac and Tamara Lucid are two individuals who are friends. They've been on the show. They both worked under Manly P. Hall, credible writers, researchers. They really helped me with the occult Elvis, and they were helping me with the Gnostic David Bowie. And unfortunately, Tamara passed 2 days ago, suddenly, very tragically. So Ronnie is, well, his life has changed and it will never be the same. So for those of you, put out a little positive energy and good vibes for Tamara's journey to the other side, through the Amente, and for healing for poor Ronnie. And of course, for us Gen Xers, we lost Ozzy, we've lost Hulk Hogan. So it seems we're going through a little bit of a purging, but such is the world. So other than that, that's really it. Trevor, let's talk about your story, and we'll unpack it from there. Tell us, you grew up kid in Oregon, but it seems your religion was a big thing. Tell us about growing up and who you were.
Yeah, I actually grew up in Spokane, Eastern Washington, over next to Idaho Panhandle. Growing up was difficult. A lot of challenges with health issues. My mom got stage 4 cancer, and my dad ended up leaving her during that time. And he was a framing contractor. He fell off a wall and shattered his ankle and his knee, and almost completely bankrupted and ruined his career. So definitely grew up in an environment of a lot of scary stuff, a lot of scarcity, and just a lot of trauma getting through all of that.
There's one part in your Substack where you're talking about as a kid, you're driving and your mom is throwing up in the coffee cup because of the cancer.
Yeah,
That must have been so hard on you, right? Because you're a
Yeah.
kid, you're so powerless.
Yeah.
And this figure is suffering.
Yeah. But from an early age, I always felt like I was kind of not necessarily chosen, but maybe had chose to go through these types of things. At a very early age, I know we moved here to this house. My grandpa died. My grandpa bought the house that I'm in now in 1951. But before we moved here, we lived in a house on Columbia, and I remember an entire lifetime back then. And I remember, getting into the garbage and getting into Dad's Copenhagen, throwing up on the floor, and lining up my toys in the backyard, and Mom singing nursery rhymes and stuff like that to me on a waterbed, and a pool table, and cigarette smoke on the walls in the full night. I remember everything. I remember getting into my aunt's chapstick in my bedroom. She smacked me around a little bit, didn't tell anybody, but during that time, I had told my dad, and I do remember, this isn't just a story that was retold to me, but I said that I came here for him. We were watching a World War II black and white, which was the norm after he got home from work framing. And I remember it felt familiar. I don't know exactly why, but I looked at him and I said, "I came here for you, Dad." And of course he, what? And he started kind of shake me, and I couldn't articulate what I meant by that. I would only later on in life, after he had passed away, understand what that actually meant.
For sure. But also, you were raised or you were a born again Christian by the time you were 12, right?
So
was this your whole family, or tell us about your being saved at such a young age?
Yeah. So Dad ended up in an apartment living away while Mom lived here, and he was going through a fair amount of alcoholism and stuff like that. And he got a bloody nose while he was looking at himself in the mirror in the morning before he went to work. And he said that the Lord told him that if he didn't stop drinking, that he was going to die. And I was the first person that came to his mind. So he quit drinking, quit smoking, and quit chewing and going with women that do, and ended up becoming a hardcore, radical, born again Christian. And that was where my early indoctrination came in during that time. Yeah. So I think I was like 12 when I asked the Lord into my heart, before I knew that He was my heart. And it was a lot of different churches, a lot of different styles of Christianity. We started out at a name it and claim it church, which Later, more recently in life, I realized this would be rebranded as manifestation. Went from there to a Pentecostal church that was danced up and down the aisles and laid hands and spoken crazy tongues, and then they were interpreted, and it seemed like it was coming from Bashar or something. It was crazy stuff. Saw some neat stuff, and then going through high school, I kind of had my guidance counselor, mapped out my future. I wanted to be a fireman and get a certain particular kind of truck and do all of these things on my vision board. And I was with my best friend who I met when I was 6 years old, and his family, we both went through a divorce at the same time, but some miraculous reason kept in touch from two different sides of town. Yeah. Where was I going with that?
You were born again Christian, and that was your life.
So my best friend and I were at a coffee or a ice cream place, and we were 19. He got a full ride. He was a valedictorian, 4.0. He got a full ride scholarship to Western University, and his girlfriend was going to Ecola Bible School down in Cannon Beach, and she was talking about how I think her grandpa was one of the founders or something like that, and she got done talking about it, and I've always loved the Lord, and Shane was with me through all of that stuff too. And anyways, I looked at him and I said, I'll drop out of college and leave and go down there if you will. And he looked at me and he was like, all right, let's do it. And so we decided to follow the Lord in that moment. And we did. And that was really when the coincidences and the synchronicities started to happen at 19.
19, huh? And your mom had already passed?
No, at that point, mom had recovered from breast cancer, smoked pack a day, loved her rum and Diet Coke, and she's just a happy old lady.
Yeah.
She didn't pass away until I got back in town like 5 years later or so.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, it was 8 years later because she got to see the birth of my first son, who's 15 now, which is pretty cool. So.
Very cool. Very cool. So there you are. You're born again Christian. Life is good. Meet your wife. Have children.
So, yeah. So the synchronicities. Okay. So we jokingly called it bridal school because subconsciously, or maybe not subconsciously, we went down there to meet chicks.
Right.
Better to meet them at a bar, I guess. Right. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, I met a lady and fell in love deeply, and about 6 weeks later, she had actually graduated and moved on. So we maintained a long-term relationship for a few months. But when we were walking down the beach, there was a moment we were having a conversation, and I asked her to be my girlfriend, and it was just pitch black dark outside, and the one and only firework went off, green.
Wow.
Poof, exploded, and she said yes. And later on, I learned with the birth and the diagnosis of our second daughter, who's now 10, that was a one in what's 25,000 times 25,000 chance of happening. And I can explain to you exactly where that statistic came from.
Yeah, please do.
So our daughter was born on April 3rd, Good Friday in 2015. And she was healthy, did all of the normal things that babies do, and starting to feed herself. And she said mama and dada, and that was the last word that I heard her say. I remember scooping her up to take her to a bath that was just an every night thing, and she just like starfish and like started screaming, and I looked into her eyes, and it was like the only way that I can describe it is it was like a glitch in the Matrix. It was like a timeline shift. It was supernatural. It was the strangest thing. And so she, from there, progressively stopped doing all of the normal baby things. She stopped surfing around the couch. She stopped saying "Dada, Mama," feeding herself. And over a couple year, or actually over a pretty short amount of time, we were going back and forth to trips to Seattle, which is about a 6-hour drive from here, to visit geneticists, because we were trying to figure out what was going on with her. They had originally thought it was something called Rett syndrome, which is more common, which is actually very rare, but they diagnosed it as type 1 GM1 gangliosidosis. And is a genetic progressive neurological disorder that has claimed her eyesight. She can't scratch her nose. She can't look across the room. And that happy, at that point, 12-year marriage ended during, I'm not going to say over, but during a disagreement about feeding tubes. And they won. So just months before that, I really didn't have much support, because having gone through this Christian experience, my dad kind of walked away from my family. So I kind of grew up black sheep, and he actually passed away. I found him dead of a heart attack like 3 or 4 months before that. And so mom had died at that point. She'd been gone since 4 years prior to that, and just didn't have the support network, I guess, that I could have probably used during that time. I had to do it on my own. I remember lots of talks earlier. I've been a sales guy for like 20 years. With my dad, I'd call him because my boss was being a jerk or something. And a year or two before I found him in bed, he told me, I love having these conversations to talk you down from a cliff, because I know your boss is hard to do, stuff like that. But you need to realize that I'm not going to always be here, and that you need to learn how to rely on Jesus. And I'm like, dude, what is that even supposed to mean? So that was an interesting thing to recollect and remember when I'm looking through the window of his bedroom and he's laying in there, But I believe that God, my higher self, maybe chose that path to go through in order to basically burn to ashes and become reborn and come out the other side, and to take what I learned and help other people that are going through pain and suffering. I lost like 6 or maybe, both my aunts during that time, his sisters, cousin, patriarch of the family on his side. Like I lost it. It felt, I just laid in bed. Thankfully I had a job that was sympathetic, and I didn't stop working either. I didn't take any time off. I just worked through it. I would rather talk to my customers about my problem, lay in bed and start drinking at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is, So, but some people have to do that too. It's just part of the whole healing experience, right? You just have to completely hit rock bottom in order to come to a place where you get really comfortable with just letting go and detaching from everything that you think you own, or you think that's attached. You think you own your spouse. You think that your family is that, but you just really just strip away everything and just lay bare naked and cry for a couple of years or whatever it is. And I turned to books. Like I said, I was a sales guy, so I spent probably close to 20 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours.
But before we get into that, Trevor, sorry for interrupting, but obviously, when did you realize your old worldview was failing? That the promises of God, or this creator God who was supposed to bless you and all that, when did that start falling apart?
Well, I can tell you that there were a couple of people that I was very close to that accused me of this situation with my daughter happening, of it being because of me and my fault, due to my lack of faith.
Oh my God.
And I had always had a lot of questions after Bible school, specifically revolving around like, why could God allow other people that haven't said this magic secret or not this magic prayer to ask Jesus, some exogenous outside entity, to come into their lives to save them to go to heaven, and everybody else has to go to hell. Like, oh, this doesn't make any sense, you know? So I'd always had questions, and I always had an interest in learning about what connects Christianity to Buddhism. And I found, well, it was actually the only thing really in the Bible is Jesus, which is only like 2% of the New Testament in the red letters. The rest of it by Paul, which is a lawyer. So, you know, it kind of grew from there. It really, it led me from a place of faith, right? In faith, to a place of knowing. Mm-hmm. It like Carl Jung, you know, he was asked, like, do you believe in God? He just like laughed. He's like, I don't. I know. I know
that accent.
Dude, yeah, and that's available. Like, that's available to everybody. And hopefully my life's mission post 40, after I spontaneously quit my 6-figure job to without a plan, to spread this gospel. Because it really is. It's a frequency that my hope is that I can somehow save people from the suffering that they're going through, whatever it is. It could be, you know, something relatively small to some people. It could be somebody else's whole life. It could have lost a little dog or something like that, and the whole world's caving in, and they're having an existential crisis. But I think we're living through a time where everybody's going through some type of an existential crisis, especially after post 2020. We're all questioning the narratives. What in the hell is the story? What are we being fed? And then I found that what I was being fed from the church was garbage, and that Jesus, it didn't ever seem like the Christian church considered the implications when you ask Christ into your heart, realizing that if you practice in, you know, 5 to 10 minutes a state of gratitude where you specifically focus on something that you're thankful for, and you marry that with emotion, and you breathe into your heart, you can tap into a level of consciousness that doesn't come from your intellectual side. It comes from your authentic, true nature. It comes from your soul. You can talk to your soul. I figured out how to do that on demand, and I want to teach people how to do that.
Very cool. And thanks for sharing. Yeah, and of course I noticed. Yeah, the turmoil in your life happened when you were 33, and no coincidence. I mean, synchronicities led you. So let's back up to when you, like you said, what's that?
These 4 started popping up. It looks like
you were listening to a lot of podcasts, and you know, Tim Ferriss, who I used to listen, all these podcasts. So what started to change, and tell us about the synchronicities and how you're driving around listening to podcasts really started shifting things.
Yeah. So Lauren was diagnosed in February. My marriage ended on Valentine's Day. That year was a dark night of the soul. Relearning how to walk again. I mean, I don't know. Doing the laundry. My son was 5 years old at the time. He was with me like 80-90% of the time, and then I was also having to, you know, manage a market and be a sales guy and be responsible for growth numbers and stuff like that. So that thankfully actually kept me active enough to keep going and not just lay in bed and you know, drink all day or whatever. But Thanksgiving came around, and my cousin had invited me over. Her parents were out of town in Hawaii, and they have a really nice big house on Ponderay in northern Idaho. And so we spent Thanksgiving just me and her, and I went to bed that night, and I had a dream. I didn't know it was a dream. I woke up and I looked at the alarm clock, and it was as real as I'm talking to you right now, and it read 4:44. And what woke me up was it was like laughter. And I thought it was like these young like maybe college age, just maybe like, I don't know, 2 guys and 2 girls, and they were having a party and they're just like having fun or whatever. And I just like, I thought it was whatever. It was rude that you invited people over after I went to bed, but whatever. And I woke up like, I felt like I slept another 8 hours after that. And I woke up and I journaled about it. And then I realized that the girl that I was talking to, that I would later form a relationship with, her birthday was on 4/24/84. And I saw a guy standing in front of a train, and the train was going this way, 30 miles an hour or whatever it was. And he had a 44 shirt on with black and white, and the train car was black and white. So I took a picture. It was like, oh, synchronicity, 44. And at the time that train car had passed, and there was a 4, like literally right to the right of his jersey that made a 4. And those are the types of things. It's not like, the clock strikes 4:44 twice a day.
Right.
But when those types of things start to happen, and I'm not talking like every now and then, I'm saying like damn near every day, you start to really, putting in Google, like what is 444 mean? I wrote a book. I'm writing a book about what it does mean, because I think there's so many people out there that are curious because they see it too, or in other numbers too. I was born November 29th, 84. So that's 11 and then 11, because 29 and then 444. And then 84's got a whole, 1984 George Orwell and then
Right.
all that stuff. So yeah. So
the synchronicities, everything, but then you talk about doing this thing that you learned from Terence McKenna. You might say this was really a turning point, right?
So this is actually where it gets really trippy, because so the first time I experienced magic mushrooms was like 2 weeks before I looked into my daughter's eye and I saw a glitch in the matrix. And it felt, the experience I had a number of very, very meaningful visions, but one was, I was in my office and I was like, I kept it, dark, but I could see well enough to the other corner of the room, and I could see this Indian with a big headdress, and he was squatted down, and he was looking over his shoulder, and he was telling me to come here. He was doing this, and he was pointing down over this valley. And I don't know, there's a number of different takes on this. A lot of people have a lot of different, perspectives on whether or not we're in a matrix, if we're in this weird reality, if there's other timelines, if we've got, the Mandela effect. But I felt like there was a Mandela effect situation happening with my daughter at that point. So that was the first time that I experienced mushrooms. Wow. And I feel almost as if I was faced with an opportunity to make a decision what road I wanted to go down to experience. And I chose the road of going through hell instead of going through just comfort and maintaining that level of life. It's hard to say that, you would choose something like that, and maybe it even sounds trite, possibly, I'm not sure, but that was the first experience that I had. The second experience that I had, it was going through, it was in that dark night, and it was just before that Thanksgiving. Actually, no, it was like in the summer. It was like August before that Thanksgiving. I played hooky from work, and it was a nice day, and I sat with bare feet in my backyard and in the grass, and I took a chocolate and just watched the clouds over my head, and they felt like they were just so close, like you could just touch them. The grass was waves, and I got kind of cold, so I went inside to take a bath. And that time I had a clawfoot tub, and I played Beethoven, and I felt like I was going through the Renaissance, and came outside and toweled off and standing naked in my front yard. I've got pretty good privacy, no neighbors in the back, and I felt this overwhelming. I felt it viscerally, this overwhelming sense of unconditional love. And then I kind of thought of the situation with my daughter and I forgave it, as opposed to having angst, and also when you lose a daughter like that, you hate yourself so bad because your genetics did that. I was 1 in 25,000 people. She was 1 in 25,000 people that have this carrier.
Oh, wow.
That's how rare it is. So when we meet and there's a firework that goes off at Bible school at Cannon Beach, Oregon, we're looking at Haystack Rock.
Yeah.
That's
the odds.
That's a synchronicity. And so I've always looked at my daughter as my teacher. And I wonder sometimes if maybe her consciousness doesn't come through me. I don't know. She's supernatural to be in the room with, in an overwhelming way.
Incredible. You have other questions as we continue. Vince, do you have a question or remark?
Well, this might be this might be jumping the gun, but what's your current conception of the entity we call God? What is God like for you? How would you describe God?
All there is, everything.
Well, the sum total of the matter of the universe, or
he's literally every consciousness, everything that's conscious. If a tree fell in the wood and nobody was around to hear it, it didn't fall. It's fallen. It's a generator, observer, and destroyer is what I like to write about. It's the beginning, this observation period. It's the eternal now, and it's the destroyer to only just generate again and remake. We're making sandcastles for eternity.
So do you think this entity actually pays attention to each and every one of us and grants our wishes, or how does that work, in your view?
I thought of God when I was a Christian in Bible school as more of a genie in a bottle. And then I realized that he's in my heart, and then I realized he is my heart, and then I realized that I am him and he is me. And the only way that I was able to do that is to overcome all of the self-hatred that came through this whole situation, all of the shame, all of the guilt, all of the stupid things that I would do, to come to a place of observing unconditional love. And that when Jesus gave us the two most important commandments, which is love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and second is to love your neighbor. That's what he meant, is you gotta love yourself. And in order to love yourself, you gotta heal. In order to heal, you gotta form a relationship with your younger self. And you gotta imagine looking at a picture on a movie screen when you're 5 years old, looking at a picture of yourself. Do you hate that person? Do you love that person? I would imagine pretty much everybody listening would say that they love that person unconditionally. Mm-hmm. Well, what about the picture when you're walking out the door for first day of high school, or the graduation from college or something like that? All those pictures, you're going to love yourself. So if you were to imagine all of those people around a table and you're having dinner with them, you're the top G. You're the one that they all look up to. How beautiful is that? All of your younger selves are looking up to you going, this guy went through some shit, right? And he came out the other side and he made something positive out of it. And that's something to aspire to. And the more you realize that, and the more you kind of conceptualize that, the more you understand that if you could imagine Jesus walking into the room, that he's the highest, best example of what you could possibly be. He's the ultimate sum of human potential. He's the embodiment of authenticity, right? He's the embodiment of our creator, that you start to realize that that's the future you. Whoa.
I like that. Very, very cool. And yes, I think the question of why we suffer, and of course, again, that's a debate that people have. Vance was sharing that he had a debate this morning, why does God allow evil things? And then there's a famous Epicurean, if God is all powerful and omniscient and da 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 da. But I remember for me, as I learned, I was in an AA meeting years ago, and there's this wise guy, old black dude, I think we called him Mr. Henry. And he was one of those people that it just exudes peace and spirituality. But he was talking about how he learned it. He said when he was younger, his son went to, and this is downtown Chicago, or, South Side Chicago. His son went to the store and he got gunned down by some gangbangers. And he was heartbroken. And he sat there and alone in his room and was just praying and praying. And he kept saying, God, why? And a voice came down from above and said, why not?
Not.
And suddenly he was flooded with this wonderful peace. And people are, what's going on? Well, how arrogant do you think that you would be the one that doesn't suffer, doesn't have disease, loss, losing your job, being, hurt? It's like we are all humans in this human experiment. We all have to go through the dark times. And part of it is part of some, we hope, plan to heal the very universe itself. Some say that even God's unconscious is trying to work things out. But so that why not has helped me understand, like, I'm not better than anybody else. I'm just as human as Trevor or Vance. It's what it means to be human, the suffering, the loss, the pain.
I totally agree. And I also think that we learned a lot about narratives in 2020 when we were all looking at each other like we're, aliens to one another and nobody can agree on anything, type of a thing. It's like, what's the narrative this week and how is it shifted and what are they covering? And those types of experiences from a collective consciousness standpoint I think have pretty profound implications when it comes to people that give a care and that want to know the truth. And once you start to seek that, it's that thread that you just can't stop it. Just keep on pulling on, and then you realize, what are the narratives that you've assigned in your own life? Mm-hmm. Was that a good thing that I went through, or was it a bad thing? Because I'm looking at it now from the other side, saying this is the most valuable, most important thing that's ever happened to me, because it's given me such a deeper understanding of the unconditional love and authenticity aspect of Christ consciousness, which is in my heart, and it's being poured out on the planet in this new age of Aquarius, the water bearer. He's pouring it out. Jesus is coming back. He's already come back. He's right there. One of us, yeah. Right there. And all you got to do is wake up to that. Wake up to the fact that you are a supernatural, eternal creature living in a biological suit that is here to experience limitation for a finite period of time, only to understand and become really as understanding of it as you want to, that you are a limitless person. And if I would love for the world to just take that whole book and just take the red letters and just concentrate on what that says. It was another level, man. He said, you are God's. That the kingdom of heaven is in you. It's not out there, it's in you. He said, go and sin no more. And we said, oh, well, that's just so he can contrast how perfect he is. No, it's to abide on that frequency of authenticity. Because if you are being your highest self, if you are being your most real you can't sin. And when you do that, and you do it in an extreme way, you have to detach from all of the things that don't serve you in your life. Mm-hmm. And that's rough, especially from the Christian background. It's very anti-divorce. But what you're doing when you slip that ring on somebody's finger, which is the ring of Saturn, by the way, the god of the Old Testament, mm-hmm. You slide that ring onto somebody's finger, what you're asking them to do is to be the person that you fall in love with right now for the rest of their life. And the thing is people grow and people change and mm-hmm. people do read books and they do go through experiences. And they do make mistakes and learn from them. And sometimes they don't.
No. Sometimes they're not ready. Sometimes we're only ready when we're ready. Yeah, I love your story because as we were talking before, it reminds me of my period, as I was telling you, it was between 2009 and 11, and I went through that period where I went through the divorce, but then I met my wife, but then we went through an economic cataclysm, but then I lost my mother, and then a few months later I lost my niece, a few months later I lost my father, and then within that year I had lost my brother, and I lost some friends, and it was just like bang bang. And unfortunately, I don't think I did as well as you, Trevor. And looking back, hindsight is 2020. But I had a toolbox, but it wasn't a good toolbox. But I kept clinging to that spiritual toolbox instead of expanding it. Instead of well, I can add grief counseling once a week. Well, I can exercise a little bit more, meditate like you, watch more
Yep.
I
Yep.
can expand. And because of my upbringing or my ego stubbornness, I didn't. And it costs years of psychic pain. So for those of you out there, if you are in pain, there are solutions. You can expand your therapy, your spirituality. You can find what works for you. You can change your worldview like Trevor did, and you can find healing sooner rather than later. Don't do what I did. That's all I'm going to say, because it got bad.
That's beautiful. One thing that came to me through all of this, with all of the numerology and all of the astrology and all of the esotericism and the study of symbols and the subconscious and Jungian psychology and all of this stuff, that I found was that that there is a male and a female side to everything, and that the male side was crucified and assassinated, and the female side was edited out of the Bible, and her name's Mary Magdalene.
Right.
So Mary Magdalene is feminine wisdom. That's Sophia, right? The feminine wisdom. And so I was having a really cool conversation with my step grandma. She's in Florida now. She went through a flood and was homeless for a minute and stuff like that. But she's a beautiful person. When I explained these concepts to her, as she started in Catholicism and then followed Dad all the way through this progression of churches before their marriage ended after 20 years. That she already intuitively knows all of the things that I'm saying. Mm-hmm. She doesn't need to intellectually understand it. She doesn't need to actually go through all of the life's challenges in order to understand it. But from a feminine quality, she understands it intuitively, because when over the last 2,000 years, we've been divorced, and we live in the age of the internet with unlimited amount of intellectual knowledge, which is the internet, right? Which is Lucifer. It's the blinding Luciferian light, which is separate from Satan, by the way. Satan and Lucifer are two different guys. We have all of the knowledge. We have no way to apply it because we don't have wisdom, because we edited the female side of the Bible out and understood the Bible literally, intellectually. Jesus said to take your net when you rose from the sky on the east bank. He said, take your net and put it on the other side of the boat, which would be the west side of the boat, right? Where the sun sets. Well, that's the right side of your brain. He's saying, you guys fished all night long, didn't catch anything. And what I've been telling you all along, you need to take your net and put it onto the creative, authentic side of your mind and stop trying to understand everything. This is the Spirit. He sits at the right hand of the Father, which is it's all in the kingdom of heaven is in you. That actually is a literal term. Everything that was taken metaphorically, wrong, and everything that was taken literally is opposite. The kingdom of heaven is in you, because the throne seat of God is the seat of your soul, and it's in the optical thalamus. It's your third eye, and Jesus sits at the right hand of that. And when you become present after detaching from all of the things that don't serve you, you enter into a flow state of pure authenticity and creativity. And I personally couldn't do that until I spontaneously left my job, spontaneously left my relationship of 4 years, and just went all in just not having a plan, and just taking my sail down, man, or just putting my oars down, I guess, and just setting sail and just going with the flow. Stop trying to row upstream, just go downstream with the current, and that's Christ consciousness. That current is Christ consciousness. That's the eternal.
Trying to control things.
That's the eternal now. That's how you create, and that's how you manifest. People, like, the internet is obsessed right now with manifestation.
Oh,
What
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't realize is that you're manifesting every second, every moment, because the generator, and then you're observing them, and then you're destroying them to experience another thing. So you can manifest terrible things, like I said, and that's part of the reason why, partially, it's not fully developed yet, but the Bible says that God will never give you something that you can't handle. Well, that to me means you can't give yourself something that you can't handle. So you might as well push yourself to the limit as far as exploring the depths of hell in order to experience how beautiful and unconditionally loving heaven is. You have to hate yourself in order to experience love for yourself unconditionally. And then you can unconditionally love your neighbor, even though they cut you off in traffic, called you here.
And did you go through periods where you hated God? I know
Oh,
I did during that period. I would shake my fist like Ahab shaking at the Moby Dick, which is the whole metaphor. It's like, yeah, Ahab and I are going to take on the big guy or something.
I said unspeakable things to God for that period of time.
Really?
I tell you though, I didn't ever lose faith. I just didn't understand, and I was pissed. I was pissed about it because I didn't understand.
Right.
And at that time too, I was still praying to this other entity that I felt like was outside of me, that needed to forgive me, and I needed to ask for forgiveness every day or multiple times a day. And it says be in prayer all day, every day. And it's like Christianity brands this, the whole thing is so oppressive, when in reality, what that means is you abide under the frequency that I'm speaking to you right now through, because my heart, my throat chakra has been unblocked. Christians think chakras are paganistic and occult. We're heretics, right? So we understand that you have to go through forgiving the shame of your lower self, the I am a piece of crap, to I feel like I'm a piece of crap. You have to heal that and give yourself affirmisms and visualize your highest self, and visualize your past self and love them, and then conquer your desires, conquer the alcoholism, conquer the whatever relationships and things that are serving you, that you feel like your body desires, but they don't feed you, and they're not healthy for you. And then you enter into a state of unconditional love here. And when you unlock that and understand that Christ is in you and he is you, that beautiful feeling comes and it flows up through your larynx and through your vocal cords, and it enters into the upper room, and you have communion with him, and then it energetically comes out like that. And I think few people have experienced it, but I wouldn't trade the world for it. I wouldn't trade the world for it. I wouldn't trade any of my past life experiences or anything for the experiences that I've had, viscerally, like bodily, firsthand, straight up, so many times.
Beautifully said. Yes. What does Paul say? The Christ within, the hope of glory. He says some wonderful lines. Vance, do you have any questions, or why doesn't God intervene? What do you think?
Well, I was talking to my family this morning about this, like I said at the beginning of the program, and if you imagine, the qualities of God that we can kind of, get to, or knows everything and everybody, is totally powerful. Then you have to imagine that it's the you were saying, that it was the sum total of everyone, and the sum power of everything in the universe and everyone in the universe. In which case, it all adds up to what the universe is doing at any moment, and therefore it can't favor any one particular entity. It favors everybody at the same time. It's just stepping the universe step by step by step. And it's not an individual person the way most churches teach in Sunday school and people grow up. It's God. If God was a particular individual, how would it pay attention to everybody at the same time? And if it's omniscient, then it would have to be each one of us at all times. And
Right.
so, if you really think deeply enough, that's how you can see that that it's you can't blame quote unquote God, for things that happen, because it's just too giant. We can't even conceive of God, really.
So to go a little deeper in your question about that. So as a Christian, I grew up always worshiping Jesus as God. And I still believe that is true, more from an archetypical standpoint, and that he's a frequency. And it really didn't get like crazy cool about the whole unconditional love and the hurdles of getting over forgiving yourself and unconditionally loving yourself until I got into numerology and astrology. And I made these connections with this higher vibrational thought to connect the dots in these patterns, and understood that that it's important to think when you're in terms of archetypes, because if a picture speaks 1,000 words, right, then a symbol speaks 1,000 pictures. So in order to understand, if you love Jesus, which I personally do, I think he's great, you have to understand him from an archetypical standpoint, and understand that the father that he said was his was not the father, the jealous, narcissistic, conditionally loving God of the Old Testament that threw our asses out of the garden and made us sweat and caused 30% of babies to die on birth and all of these terrible things, right?
Yeah.
He is the God of scarcity, lack, limitation, boundaries, black and white boxes. Black and white boxes. And Jesus, and that's all ruled by Saturn, Father Time. The guy with the big white beard is Satan. He's the God of this world. He's the architect. He's the architect that's telling the world that he's the builder. Jesus's dad is the builder. He's the son. And Jesus, the frequency, Jupiter, which is expansion and abundance beyond imagination, more than you can handle if you tap into the left side or the right side of the boat, right? If you tap into the right side of the boat, cast your net on the other side, he is a representation of limitless amounts of fish and loaves. Fish are children and loaves are money, right? So children and money, endless amounts. That's what he is. That's what he represents. So he's opposite of the people that he said were, well, they called themselves the Pharisees back then, but that's truly what they are and are still. They're the ones that fool you into thinking that matters. And what I found when I found this whole thing with Jupiter, I look at this alchemical sign. This is a 4, by the way, if you could see it, but it's also a 2. But also, it's a moon, crescent moon, which is a female. Females are curvy and emotional. They're ruled by the 28-day cycle. And the cross, which is what Jesus was nailed to, is matter. So that's the corner of a cube. And I fell in love. I didn't fall in love, but I became aware of the cube when I entered back into the dating scene, because I wasn't confident meeting girls or whatever. Being married since I was 19, and now I'm like 33, 34 years old, and so I'm reading books because that's what I always do. And I came across this book. It's called it was written by like a pickup artist or whatever, and he was talking about bar techniques, about like striking out the conversation. And he revealed to me what changed my life literally, which was the cube test. The cube test. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
It's a cool book. You can ask. Yeah, it's very interesting because it's have you ever heard of cocoology before? It's a Japanese technique to tap into your subconscious. So so I don't know, do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Do we got like 5-10 minutes?
Of course. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. As long as you don't turn Vance into thinking we're chickens, or something. Well, let's do it.
Too late. I already think I'm a chicken, so go for it.
Who wants to be my subject?
I'll do it.
Okay.
See, I was a chicken.
Well, but here's the cool thing. This is literally supernatural. Okay, I'm going to show you some sorcery here. Okay, when I show you and I interpret Miguel's, you and everybody listening is going to be able to interpret their own, because they're going to mentally picture what they got. Okay, but everybody's going to be different. I promise you. But somehow I can interpret this through intuition. Okay, so if you imagine yourself, you're in a theater, and there's a blank screen in front of you, and now there's a cube.
Should I close my eyes? It doesn't matter.
You don't have to.
All right.
There's a cube in front of you. What is it? What does the cube look like? Is it floating? What does it look like?
Black cube,
Okay.
slightly floating, hovering over or in front of this white screen.
Okay. Slightly hovering. Is it like rotating at all?
Very slowly, yes.
Okay. Is there so there would be an edge sometimes facing? Are the edges flat, or are they like canted like is there a corner of the cube facing you at all, or?
Yes, there is. Yes.
What's the cube made out of? Is it dense? Is
like
it
black onyx, a little sheen, little white sheen you can see. Yeah.
Okay. And how big is it?
From here it seemed pretty big. If I get closer, it's gigantic.
Okay.
Like a building.
Okay. Now there's a ladder.
Okay.
Where is the ladder? Tell me about it.
On the left side, going to one of the flat parts that's leaning this way.
Leaning? Is it leaning on the cube?
Yes.
How high?
No, it's going. It goes up, and then it stops at like the lip, and then I would have to walk up. Does that make sense?
So it's leading to the top of the cube.
Right. Correct.
Is it metal or wood?
Metal.
Is it scary to climb?
I haven't started yet.
Okay.
I was waiting for Vance to go first.
If
he got over his chicken stuff.
So far, isn't it crazy how you have such like immediate answers for all of these questions that I'm asking? Okay.
It's almost like I'm remembering it.
Yes, that's it. So now there's flowers. Where are the flowers at?
There's flowers. Okay. Flowers would be by the side
of the cube.
The cube, yeah.
On the ground?
No, on the cube itself.
On the cube itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially, I notice once I climb up, I notice almost like there's a bed of flowers.
Like wildflowers?
Kind of carnations.
Okay.
Dark red. Some are pink.
Beautiful. Now there's a horse.
The horse is just kind of trotting at the bottom of the cube on the ground.
Is it just trotting, just like having a good time?
Yeah, but it's got a saddle and everything. Like it's just it just got out of the stable. It just doesn't have a rider.
Interesting. I don't know, man. You might not. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. So now there's a storm. What is the storm doing to your environment?
With just clouds, rain going sideways, and I want to go down the ladder and jump on the horse and get out of here.
So the horse has a rider once again, then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right on. So all of these different things have subconscious associations to them that without you knowing, you wouldn't know. But once I tell you, you won't be able to unsee it. Just like things that I've gone through that I can't unsee, and I'm sure you guys too. You can't unsee once you see it, right? So that cube is your ego. It's how you conceptualize yourself. So your higher soul doesn't have that, and you learn very much what that feels like when you do mushrooms, because your ego dies and then you become reborn. So that's why the mushroom is a sacred sacrament. It's eat my flesh and drink my blood is the mushroom and wine, which is emotion, thought and emotion. So your cube, your onyx cube that's dense and heavy, that's big, and especially when you come up to it, that's what that is.
Okay.
It's black, which is sleek. There's, you can go on once we go through this stuff and like kind of study it, stuff like that. It's floating because you're not grounded in a like a confined situation. You're free. You're floating.
Okay.
You're spinning because, in my interpretation, the way I understand it, I've never heard somebody say that it was. Yeah, I have. but that is your ability to switch from the objective side to a creative side. So you're balanced between the intellectual side and the creative side, which is pretty cool. If a corner's facing you, that's like extremely like creative, because most people wouldn't say that, like, unless they're creative. You know what I mean?
Right.
The latter is your friends and your ambitions, career and friends, basically, which is interesting. It represents the same thing. I don't think that's a coincidence. You said it was metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wood is more like an aesthetic. Like you're more of a you keep things around just because they mean something to you, like, but you're more this is a tool. Like it's more of like a aluminum or metal ladder is more of a useful item. So that's that. And then it goes to the top of your cube, which it goes just to the top of your cube. You said something interesting. This is actually really interesting. You said that you haven't started climbing the ladder yet.
Right.
It's almost as if your journey is only yet just beginning, which is beautiful. It's like really cool. You can read between the lines of the little comments that people say. And then it leads just to the top of this huge cube, means that you've got a huge amount of you perceive a huge amount of potential in yourself. And then you said something interesting I'll come back to about the top of the cube in a minute. Your horse is your partner. So a saddle would be a representation of maybe a wedding ring or something like that. She's happy down near the flowers, which are your children. And so you said there are two different flowers, and they're not just grow anywhere type of a wildflower. They're rare and valuable and beautiful.
Carnations.
Yeah. But there's only two of them, which is like, there's limited amount. They're finite. And they're with you, like they're right with you, which is cool. But you said something interesting when I asked you about the storm and how it was affecting your environment. Thankfully, you didn't say it's tearing the flowers down and the horse ran away. But you said at the beginning that you didn't want to, or you hadn't felt like you'd climbed the ladder yet. But when the storm came, you jumped off the cube and onto the horse, which didn't have a rider, which is that's mind blowing. That's beautiful. That you rode off into the sunset with your partner.
Very cool. So this is like a universal exercise people can do to find out more about themselves.
If I had a translator, I could do it with a 6-year-old girl in China.
Really? Wow.
So the thing with this that actually was a very life-changing tool is it unknowingly gives you the ability to learn things about over text messages on dating apps and things like that, to learn about who would be a good potential partner. Because sometimes you'll uncover some interesting things, especially when it comes to the storm. But when you show somebody that you've never met or heard or spoken to a list of things about themselves that they didn't know themselves, it's an incredibility winner. And it starts you down the path of, well, why do these things associate? When you start to understand that cube is representative of Saturn, and that's what they walk rings around it in Mecca. That's what the Lord of the Rings. The ring is a contract. Ladies wear rings in their ears to listen to God, which is their God, which is not their God literally, but they wore earrings to listen to the narcissistic, jealous God of the Old Testament. That ring is a sign of limitation. And that's why they didn't like Mary so much in the Bible and rubber stamped her a whore, which I don't know if I could say that or not, but they threw her out and edited her out because she was the female version of Christ after he cast he opened her chakras up and cast the shame and the guilt and uncovered the unconditional love and opened up her truth and opened up her inner room, and he Christed her. She was his closest disciple. She was the closest. When John or James or whoever, his own brother, wanted to know where Jesus was, he was probably asking Mary. And she's like, he's up on the mountain. He's fasting. Like, You can't talk to him. He needs to recover from this last bout about trying to explain to people that they are him and they can't understand the concept. So he has to go out and take vacations because he's going crazy because people are bringing him their kids and stuff like that and lure them down for the ruse while he's trying to explain to people that they are already healed, that the kingdom of God is already in you.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. And that contrasts Jupiter, which is unconditional love. Christ consciousness contrasts perfectly with Saturn, which is the architect, the father time. Jesus said that death is the enemy. What he meant was time is the enemy. You can't have death without time. Jesus is eternal life because he's outside of limitation. That's what is so hard. It was so hard for me to understand as a Christian. Is like, I don't understand the concept of no time. And just think about, well, just understand the concept of zero limitation, and you'll understand unconditional love and being able to manifest literally whatever you want. You're literally one of two people that I reached out to ask to come on to a podcast. And I don't believe in coincidences at all. I believe that this was orchestrated by a much higher power that literature in the past is called Humpty Dumpty, but we're all just little fragments of the same thing, man. And we fell off a wall to experience being that fragment in order to have the joy of experiencing becoming one again with everything, becoming one with Christ consciousness. And that's why the things like the cube are the things that are coming, that I'm devoted my life to being a messenger of, is this frequency to give the world, to say that you can tap into unlimited amounts of abundance and you don't even have to work. I've got bare feet, like they're dirty from being outside. I woke up at like 9 o'clock this morning. Like, it's awesome. I quit my job, and now all I do is I do the most important, exciting thing that I can possibly think to do, which is to tell people about what I'm talking about right now, in order for them to unlock and escape the matrix, which is limitation. It's the prison cell, which is limitation, and to understand that they are divine beings that have an inheritance that's already here and it's already waiting for you. All you have to do is just uncover it. And that's the positive version of Revelations. We're not at the end of the world. The apocalypse means apocalypto. It means the revealing or the unveiling. What can you unveil that isn't already there? What's on everybody's coffee table in the United States, almost metaphorically? The Bible. It's been there the entire time, and it's a code book. It's a time capsule. It's been waiting for us to uncover it and unlock it and overcome the fear of hellfire, having gone through hell and saying, to hell with it. There's nothing worse than this. I might as well study occultism and hereticism and all of these things, right? I might as well open my mind to other possibilities that these Christians say are pagans. And you find out that pagan just means hillbilly, and hillbillies are the people that the church threw out of the community and had to live in the hills because they weren't buying what they were selling. And that occultism only just means hidden knowledge. It doesn't mean anything negative. There's no negative connotation. But this whole thing with narratives, people start to, you start to understand that ideas have people don't have ideas.
Exactly, as Jung said.
Right? And that the threshold or the strongholds that the Bible talks about is a metaphor for that idea. And that like Nimrod and Babylon and stuff, like he would hire sorcerers from a city called Medea, south of Babel, to conquer other cultures around the world through their sorcery. They're called media. It's the media. He hired sorcerers to speak fear into other people, to cave them from the outside in, because he couldn't conquer them physically, so he would conquer them spiritually before he would conquer them. And that's what's happening with our world right now, is we're broken, and this brokenness is unlocking this frequency that I'm speaking to you through right now. I'm channeling it.
Well, thank you. Beautifully said. Well, as we get to the end, I wanted to recite something really quickly, because we've been talking about grief, loss, losing friends, and all that. And these are very inspirational words that I wanted to share with the audience. It comes from Nick Cave. He answered a letter. Nick Cave has lost two of his sons. And I wanted to know what you guys think real quick. Let me do a share screen. And where are you? Window. There you go. This is my document. Can you guys see it? And he says, "Dear Cynthia, it seems to me that if we love, we grieve. That's the deal. That's the pact. Grief and love are forever intertwined. Grief is the terrible reminder of the depths of our love, and like love, grief is non-negotiable. There is a vastness to grief that overwhelms our minuscule selves. We are tiny, trembling clusters of atoms subsumed within grief's awesome presence. It occupies the core of our being and extends through our fingers to the limits of the universe. Within that whirling gyre, all manner of madness exists, ghosts and spirits and dream visitations, and everything else that we, in our anguish, will into existence. These are precious gifts that are as valid and as real as we need them to be. They are the spirit guides that lead us out of the darkness. I feel the presence of my son all around, but he may not be there. I hear him talk to me, parent me, guide me, though he may not be there. He visits Susie in her sleep regularly, speaks to her, comforts her, but he may not be there. Dread grief trails bright phantoms in its wake. These spirits are ideas, essentially. They are our stunned imaginations reawakening after the calamity. Like ideas, these spirits speak of possibility. Follow your ideas, because on the other side of the ideas, change and growth and redemption. Create your spirits, call to them, will them alive, speak to them. It is their impossible and ghostly hands that draw us back to the world from which we were jettisoned, better now and unimaginably changed." So I always liked that by Nick Cave. Beautiful. And again, about the loss of his son and how he had to deal with things. So, and of course, he's talking about, imagination and trying to tell people. I'm sure this other person was a secularist, so he's trying to couch it like, but Nick Cave knows these things are real. But anyway. So awesome. Well, I think we better wrap it up. This has been a very rewarding conversation. Vance, any last question or remark on your end?
No questions from the chat, and no questions from me, really. Congratulations on bringing yourself through all that. And yeah, the way I see it, I see things very similarly to the way you do. Consider myself a quote unquote mystic and believe in the well, it's too complicated to say what I believe in, but people have heard me babble about it before.
Awesome.
Well,
Yes,
thank you for having me on. If I could just give a quick plug, because I do actually,
please do.
I'm actually devoting my entire life to what we're talking about. I've got a Substack. You can find me, Trey Force. I'm Trey Force at the JupiterKey.com email address. TRE4S at thejupiterkey.com. I'm very open to personal coaching opportunities to just literally just connect with people and hear their stories and try to help. I absolutely love you. And I really hope that you reach out to me, because I want to be your friend.
There you go, for sure. And yes, I do have your Substack on the show notes, so check it out, whether you're watching on video or you're watching the replay. So definitely check it out. Yeah, and we look forward to your books and exercises and all that to, like you said, get us level us up.
And I'm also going down the path of working the whole financial piece into it, as far as how to escape the matrix. So if you're interested in becoming more autonomous and more free with the way that your income works, and you want to protect yourself, I've got some things to talk to you about that personally. So please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. I might do it myself. Well, awesome. Well, we really enjoyed it, Trevor. And first, I'll say thanks, Moondog Vance, for keeping us company tonight.
Oh, you bet. Always glad to be here. and with the chat people and everybody else that's watching.
Awesome. Well, Trevor, really appreciate you coming on the show, and we look forward, when you get a book published or anything else, to having you back on, and we will continue this conversation.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, pleasure's all ours. Again, check out his Substack in the show notes if you want to contact him. For everybody else, thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. We got some good shows next week. We will have a show on an individual who was actually the daughter of a prominent Nazi and her own life story of coming out of that worldview into a very Gnostic worldview. So another good show's coming for the rest of July and the dog days of August. So please support AM Bite in any way you can. Help grow this Red Pill Cafeteria. And that is really it. And as I say, write your own gospel, live your own myth, and have a good rest of your week. And everybody, have a good weekend. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, all.